Hi, welcome back. I'm Theresa Bruno. I'm the host of the Soul Talks podcast. We're back again this Monday with Sheri Ryland, and we love to tease her and call her our resident therapist, but truly so thankful for all her education and all that she has done to become a therapist, that she is helping us in this platform. You know, last week we talked about, kind of at a 30,000 foot level because we go quickly, we talked about trust and boundaries. And boy, did you respond to us. You want to know a whole lot more about that topic. So we're going to do a little episodic thing here. And so for the next few Mondays, we're going to talk about various different places where you trust yourself at different points in life. What does that look like? So hang on with us. We're talking about trust and boundaries. Hi, Sheri.
I'm glad to be here today to talk about trust and boundaries. It's something that evolves throughout our lives.
Yeah, well,
And
our people want to hear from you. So, one of the
yeah,
questions that I was asked was, yeah, that all sounds really good, but how do you trust yourself?
well, and that's where we talk about evidence, right? We can have a lot of evidence that says otherwise, and we can still learn to build more evidence that shows that we can trust ourselves, right? So, a lot of trust has to do with what people have told us about ourselves, that we can't trust ourselves or that we um, aren't good enough. But we have to be able to have that discussion on a daily basis of, why do I need to trust myself? Who do I need to trust? When you're in your when you're a young adult, it's very hard to find that space of trusting yourself versus your parents or whoever your caretaker was.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I have such a heart for young people, kind of that age that becomes so scary. It's like
Hmm.
18 to 23, 4, 5. When you do break from your parents, you kind of
Right.
don't know who to
Right.
trust.
Well,
You don't have your
exactly.
self trust maybe firmly enough in place to always know what to, protect yourself from. And I feel like there's so much, I just listen to people around me and things that are happening online. I hear so much pain from that particular age group. And a lot of
Yes.
that pain comes from not knowing who to trust, how to trust themselves, and how to have healthy boundaries, whether it's in relationships or how you deal with school, issues, learning to go into the workforce. It's all so heavy. Will you
Right.
talk a little
Well,
bit
and
about
that's
that directed at
yeah.
that age group?
Definitely, because that's the age group when we're trying to figure out which is more important: our parents, our friends, our future, what we're deciding to be when we grow up, who's going to take care of us, who are we going to take care of, what are we taking on, and what do we not want to take on. But that not taking on is the part that we don't talk about. We talk about, like, when you're in high school, especially in the last 20 years, we've been saying more, more, more. Let's teach them more, more, more skills about how to be smarter, how to know the most things at the end of the day, how to have the highest SAT scores, how to have all of those things to get into college. That's our plan, right? So when I get there, I don't have anybody telling me what to do. And so I have zero boundaries because they've all been lifted for me because my boundaries have been put on by somebody else.
That's a scary
Somebody else
place to
gave me
be.
boundaries. Yes. So this is when we have to learn how to make our own boundaries, which is really hard because most of us haven't been taught that.
Yeah.
We've been told no, um, for the longest time. And so when we hear no, or these are the rules in my house, I have been given a clear boundary of what I'm allowed to do and what I'm not allowed to do. And when you take those away, it's really hard to know what is your boundary versus what is your parents' boundary. So this is a time of acknowledging that. And you have to be in a good space in order to do that. Either having good people around you or people who can help you, or you being healthy enough to be able to do that. So that's really hard if you haven't come from a place of being taught what good healthy boundaries are. So part of that is being in situation, finding people in your life that are going to help you with learning what is the right boundary for you, or getting away from having a very strict childhood where, where sex was not allowed before marriage, we don't even talk about sex. We don't, everything's taboo. And then I go away to school and that's everywhere. Sex, alcohol, drugs, everything that I've either been told is the devil or is okay, or we don't talk about it at all. So that's where we have to start figuring out for us what feels comfortable, what doesn't, before we get into it. Learning to trust our bodies, because our bodies are the ones that tell us. You feel tense when you know you're in a situation that does not work for you. You feel you're heavy on your heart when you know that that's something wrong. When you feel like you're that sick pit in your stomach when you know it's wrong or it shouldn't happen. If you're feeling those, trust that. That's how you learn how to trust yourself.
I love
You're
that.
trusting.
I love that. That is so important. And it doesn't just apply to people who just left home, but
Yes.
because I think so often we have all the signals.
Yeah.
Our body's life gives us signals of, hey,
Yes.
you don't need to be in this. You don't need to be in this car. You don't need to be in this bed, whatever it is.
Exactly. But then your mind takes over. Your mind takes over and says, oh, but it's okay. He won't like me if I don't go to bed with him. He won't like me if I don't get in the car with him after he's just had 5 drinks.
Right.
And so if we don't listen to our body that's giving us all these warnings, these warning bells that are screaming at us saying, this is, don't do it, don't do it. Trust those. Those are the things we need to trust. That's how we trust ourselves. Our body already knows.
And Sheri, that maps back to something we talked about a few weeks ago when we talked about judgment, self-judgment, compassion for oneself, but it's also believing you're enough. You don't have to do what the other person wants you to do. You don't have to get in that car because you're enough even if he doesn't like you anymore.
Absolutely.
You don't have to sleep with him because he won't like you the next morning, because actually you really don't want him to like you the next morning. He's not
Absolutely,
somebody
because
you want to hang out with.
Right, exactly. If you feel like disgust is one of those core emotions that nobody discusses.
I love
because
this.
Disgust is there to teach us, get away from this person. This is gross. This is awful. I don't like it. Your body is telling you, no, don't do it. So that's how we learn how to trust. Trust your body to, don't talk yourself out of those things because somebody else might not like you.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. We don't need them to like us. That's where we learn to trust.
Yeah, I love it. Well, that was a really good breakdown, and I'm glad that we directed it at our younger viewers, because I just feel so protective of them, and I know how hard it is. It's been a while, but I can still feel a lot of those things that happen.
I totally feel them.
I wish I'd made some different decisions and listened to my body and trusted myself more.
Amen. Same
I'm
here.
serious. But, thank you so much for breaking that down for us, and we'll continue this episode or these episodes on trust and boundaries next week.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I hope that was helpful. And, if you know somebody who's in pain and suffering, if you know a young person who's really struggling with what's going on in their lives, share this with them. Just send a link. Thank you again. We'll see you next week.